Hey now, it's Brace for Impact, and I'm your host, Mike Gilbert, and as always, I'm going solo on that ass. But it is still the same. We're talking TNA wrestling, and we have a little bit of breaking news.
Breaking news.
So if you guys remember on Saturday's Brace for Impact, those of you that are listening right here on patreon.com/the Mike and JD show, thank you for being here. If you remember, I said that there were 3 re-signings coming up early in the week, but I didn't have the names. Well, Sean Ross Sapp has revealed those names through a coordinated interview with TNA. The names are Masha Slamovich, Ash by Elegance, and for some reason, John Skyler. Now, I ain't got nothing against John Skyler. He's a perfectly fine wrestler. He's not a bad addition to the roster. I just don't think that he should have been in on that announcement. That could have just been an email. No offense to him, he's not like a pushed guy or anything. His job is to lose a lot of matches, and he does a good job of that. He's a little shithead that comes on and he talks crap, and he gets beat up. And you look, every company needs those guys. I just don't think that you're ever going to see like AEW announce the re-signing of Serpentico. You know what I mean? Like that's the level that we're talking about here. So I mean, good for Skyler. He's got a gig. I think that's like I like seeing people get paid, and he like seeing him have a job. He's not a bad guy, not a bad wrestler. He's just I mean, come on, he's John Skyler. No offense. Asked by Elegance, look, it's no secret that I have not been a fan of hers. I like George Iceman. I think he's great, but and this company needs their characters, and she is definitely one of the characters. And she's always a featured act on the show. I don't think, other than her matches with Jordan Grace and maybe like 1 or 2 others, her matches have not been good at all, to be honest with you. And most of her performance, like outside of the ring performances, occasionally they're funny, but for the most part, they're cringe. They're fast forward inducing. But she does have her fans. She's famous from WWE, so TNA likes that. Like, if you get fired from WWE, you got a shot here in TNA. And so now she's on her second contract with TNA. She was announced as being signed a year ago at Hard to Kill. She made her debut. They built her up to a title match, and we all thought that she was actually going to beat Jordan Grace. But look, in the ring, she just can't go, right? Even though that match with Jordan was great, I thought. But we also have to remember who she was in the ring with. It was, Jordan Grace is one of the greats. So, but, she did the match at Slammiversary, and it was a really good match, but she didn't win. And it looks like she's going to be a featured tag team performer now with Heather Reckless. So I still don't know what they're doing, but it looks like they'll probably beat Spitfire for the tag team titles at Genesis coming up. So, but she's got herself another contract. I don't know how long it is. I'm guessing it's another year, because she's probably one of those people that just looking forward to getting back to WWE. Despite the fact that she's never going to be featured in WWE the way that she's been featured here. So she had her run at WWE. I don't think they'll ever want her back. And I know that's mean to say because that's probably what she's wanting out of life. But TNA really likes her, and they feature her. And as long as she's the character, and as long as she, is willing to lose when asked to lose, I think that she'll always have a job here in TNA. So they're clearly very high on her. Not high enough to make her the champion, which, look, if she's just going to be bottom of the card, pre-show tag team matches, and not getting in the way of, some of the better performers on the roster, like, that's fine. It's not my money, so do whatever you guys want. If you guys like her, keep her. That's fine. But yeah, she has re-signed. But I think the big news, and which is why she's in the headline, why she's got the graphic, Masha Slamovich has re-signed with TNA. I didn't know that her deal was coming up. And although she has been there for 3 years already, I just assumed that maybe she had time left on her deal already, which is why she was the champion. But Masha Slamovich has re-signed with the company. She's the TNA Knockouts champion. I would have assumed that when her deal was up, that she would get a lot of looks from AEW, and that going to AEW would have been hard to turn down. But if you're, and I explained this a couple months ago, like if you're Masha and you're looking at what some of the former TNA talent is females have done in AEW since they've been there, you'd probably say to yourself, maybe that's not the place for me to go. Maybe I don't want to go there and have my one title match and then go sit in catering or get de-pushed and well, Rampage is canceled, but like Deonna Purrazzo has been relegated to Rampage and now she's doing Collision and now she's in a tag team with Taya Valkyrie, right? And Taya, came in, she got her 1 month push and she has barely been on the show since. The same thing happened with Deonna. She came in, she got her 1 month push with Toni Storm. They did the match, puts over Toni. And then recently, she's just been doing nothing. In fact, they had her on the pre-show in New Jersey, and she was jobbing out on the pre-show. I don't think Masha fits what WWE would want, although she has gotten herself into really good shape. But WWE really likes those fitness model types, and Masha Slamovich is. She's not. I mean, she's a beautiful girl, but she looks more like somebody that would beat the shit out of you, which is why I like her. I think she's a unique performer. And she's perfect for TNA, and I think she's the right person to be the world champion right now. And I'm excited that TNA was able to get her back in the fold and get her on long term. Now, again, I don't know how long she signed for, so maybe she's another 1 year rental. Who knows? I don't think any details have been released about the length of the contract, but I think this is a huge W for TNA. Because right now there's this big, we always use the term mass exodus, but a lot of people are leaving. A lot of people are leaving. A lot of people that needed to go are gone, and then some people that we wanted to stay are leaving, and that's disappointing. And if it had been announced that her deal was coming up, I think all assumptions would have been that she would be out the door. I think that she would be somebody that Tony Khan would covet. Initially, he would want that action figure in his playset. And once he got her, he would probably just be paying her to do nothing. And she decided that she wanted to be a featured performer, even though it's a smaller organization, a featured performer that actually gets to wrestle on television and gets to wrestle in big matches on pay-per-view for TNA. And that's what her role is going to be going forward. I think eventually she loses the title to Tessa Blanchard. I think that's where they go. But I am not so sure that it's going to happen all that soon. I think BQ is under the impression that it'll happen at Rebellion. I could see them dragging that out to Slammiversary, to get Masha a long title run because she's worked hard and she's great. But I think the ultimate destination being Tessa and Masha, I think that's a big match. And I think that's a headlining match. I think you can main event a pay-per-view with that match, depending on what the world title situation is looking like for the men. I think that's a big deal for TNA, and it's a good thing for this Knockouts division because they could really use the help. We got Tessa back. Yeah, obviously Jordan's out, but we got Tessa back. Kylan King should be coming in any day now, hopefully soon this month. Hopefully, we'll see. Rumors are that Maggie Moore is signed, but she's kind of an underneath talent. She's very young, very green. She's not quite there yet, but it looks like that they're bringing her in. She's been coming to the latest set of tapings, and once everything gets shook out, I think that they'll probably announce that she's in. But that's not like a big signing. We still got, I could see them wanting to go with Indy Hartwell, although I would stay away. I think there's a million Indy Hartwells out there, but I think that they would want to go with her. Tegan Knox is available. That's probably somebody that I would, kick the tires on. She's got those bad knees, but maybe she's still got something. So I'd like to see her get a shot here in TNA. So there's talent available. And of course the indies are just ripe with female talent. There's not like there's a shortage of female talent available. They're just not picking them up. But I think that re-signing Masha, who would have had competitive offers, re-signing them tells me that they're serious about continuing to upgrade the Knockouts division, even in light of Jordan Grace's absence. Even though the Jordan Grace, who is one of my favorite TNA performers of all time, but also is a very self-righteous person, but she will be twerking for the Saudis on top of a Real American Beer logo here before we know it. So She'll be over there with the Fed, making the big dough. And look, you can't blame her either. I think a lot of people in her position wouldn't be able to turn down the advances of that kind of money and that kind of fame and that kind of a spotlight, you know. And I think now is the right time for Jordan to go to WWE. I think she'll go there. I think she'll be a megastar. I think she'll be right up there with your Charlottes and Becky's and Bianca Belairs and those types. She's every bit as good or better than all of them, right? Rhea Ripley, she's right up there with all of them. The only thing that she lacks is height. You know, she's probably shorter than Becky Lynch, right? But she is more jacked than all of them, and as far as just like explosiveness and athleticism, I think she's just like Bianca Belair's probably a better athlete overall, but I don't think Grace is far behind as far as like explosiveness and the way she hits her moves, like the way she hits her elbows and her punches and her slams and the way she explodes off of those ropes. I think that, you know, when I see her bounce off the ropes, it's like watching Steve Austin bounce off the ropes in like 1991. She's that good. She really is a tremendous performer. And I'm going to be sad to see her go. So this division really needed a boost, really needed a pick me up, really needed to have some good news. And I am glad that we got the good news this morning that Masha Slamovich has signed. I'm super excited about it. I know AEW diehards are going to be upset, but you guys can suck my whole butt. You got every performer under the sun that's been available. You don't need everybody. And if Tony Khan did sign her, he wasn't going to use her much anyway. He didn't have enough TV time to feature all these performers. So they're just going to sit and do nothing. Or she might have been relegated to Ring of Honor, you know? And so she'd be better off unless Tony Khan was paying, you know, an insane amount of money. You're better off being in TNA than you are in Ring of Honor. Nobody can watch Ring of Honor. Their pay-per-views do pretty good because they got AEW backing, but for the most part, you know, nobody's going to see you wrestle, right? They're wrestling after Dynamite's over with nobody in the audience. People are leaving. They can't get anybody to stay there for the show. And nobody's going to pay for Ring of Honor on demand, you know? So way more people watch TNA than watch Ring of Honor. That's for damn sure. So if you're Masha Slamovich, I think this is a good move. I think this is a good move for her. This is a good move for TNA. I think this is a home run by TNA. So kudos to them. Good for them. I'm really happy about it. I'm happy for, you know, I enjoy covering Masha's work for the podcast, and ultimately that's what all this is about. If TNA does well, I do well, and that's the most important thing, as you guys know. Some other news, which is just kind of breaking over the weekend. TNA is slinging their replay rights. Now, they have, it came out 8 months ago, which I never knew because I'm not on Reddit. So unless someone sends me something from Reddit, I don't see it. But a Redditor 8 months ago broke the news that TNA had been putting their replay, like 2 week old shows on Sportsnet Pittsburgh. And Spectrum Sportsnet out of Pittsburgh. Now that channel is the home for the Pittsburgh Pirates and the Pittsburgh Penguins. So that's a good station, like a good local station, right? That's a good thing. They did that 8 months ago. I'm surprised they haven't ran Pittsburgh since then. Like if they're going to target certain regional sports networks to put their show on, they should be targeting those markets to run live events. So that was 8 months ago, but TNA never made an announcement. They don't have it on their site. They don't have it on the where to watch thing. They don't have a list of these places. They just appeared there 8 months ago, and it's been on there ever since, and no one really knows about it. Well, I guess over the weekend, Lavi Margolin found out that Impact is now available on the New England Sports Network, NESN, which I believe is the home of the Red Sox and the Boston Bruins, and is the home of the main local coverage for the New England Patriots. They're not going to show the Patriots games, but that's like they're going to be covering all Boston area sports news. I'm sure this is the home of the Boston Celtics too. It's the number one sports channel in the Boston area. Well, Impact is available now on New England Sports Network. Back in the 80s when NESN was created, the WWF would actually go there and run the Boston Gardens, and it would be exclusive shows to that region. So they're available now on Nesson. And nobody knows if they're available on any other sports networks because TNA doesn't have a list of all the available sports networks that they're on, but they're starting to sling their replay rights. And the deal was just signed on Friday. Right Now Television. Yes, you heard me correctly. Right Now Television, a free over-the-air station that none of you have ever heard of. That on Twitter, they just created their Twitter account in December, and they have exactly 34 followers. Last I checked, I am not one of them. But Right Now TV which was the home of OVW, will now be the home of TNA Impact replays. So if you go to their website, it says they're available to over 100 million viewers, but we all know that's horseshit. I don't know 100 million people that have an antenna in their home, right? I live in Honolulu, and I could install an antenna, but I just don't have one because I can just watch the internet. Like, I can get channels the other way. Last time I had an antenna I can't remember the last time I actually had an antenna installed in a house that I was living in, because I've always just either had cable or I just watched apps. I just have not. Now, when I get to Charlotte, I might have an antenna installed. It depends on what kind of cable situation I'm going to be looking at there. But since I'll be owning a home, I'll probably pay to have an antenna installed. That way, if I do decide to just cut the cord completely, I'll just have that. But yeah, Right Now Television, it's in 33% of the homes in the U.S. Now, again, that doesn't mean 33% of the homes in the U.S. have antennas, right? But of all homes, they're in 33% of the markets. There's a whole list of markets out there, but they're going to be replaying. The schedule is going to be updated. I don't know when they're going to be replaying, but they're slinging replay rights. So what does this mean? The answer is not much. It's not really going to add much viewership. If they could get immediate replays of their show on regional sports networks, I would say that's a big deal. Ring of Honor used to be on all the regional sports networks, their replays, and then they were in syndication. But if you can get on Nesson and the Yes Network and Spectrum Sportsnet LA, which is the home of the Lakers, and if you can get on the Yes Network in New York City, the home of the Yankees, right? And if you can get on, Comcast, the CSN or NBC Sports Bay Area, which is the home of the Giants and the San Jose Sharks and the coverage of the 49ers, right? If you can get on like those types of networks, just your replays, not your first run, I think that's a wise strategy, even if you're not making a lot of money off of it, because what you're doing is you're getting your product into those local markets, penetrating those local markets, and then at that point you can target those markets to run live events based on the numbers. Now, if nobody in that market is watching your show, which I assume is the case for Pittsburgh, because they have not ran Pittsburgh since, even though they've been on their main sports channel for the last 8 months. But if you're able to get some viewership in those markets, it would be wise to run shows and advertise on those regional sports networks to be able to run bigger shows in those venues. Like, for instance, if they are able to get themselves on Sportsnet LA, that would absolutely help them with their upcoming Rebellion show at the Galen Center, home of the USC Trojans, because Sportsnet Spectrum LA, or whatever it's called, would be covering full-time the Trojans, like all of their sports. They would be covering them, right? So if you want to watch local sports news, instead of going to ESPN, which is a national network, if you go to you want to just get your local one, which is what I did when I lived in the Bay Area, and when I had Spectrum cable here, I would go to Sportsnet LA to watch the Dodgers play, and like they would be covering Dodgers news. So that's how I would be able to watch those games. I don't have the cable anymore, but that's what I did. So you would be getting yourself out in front of a lot of people that could possibly be wrestling fans. I think that's a smart play. I think that's a good thing to do. But what this tells me is not much. This is not a big deal. This is not important, which is why they have not talked about it. If it was important, if it was a big deal, trust me, they would have a press release. Trust me, they would be telling people, they'd be shouting it from the mountaintops that this was a great opportunity for them. But them slinging their replay rights tells me that they probably don't have a TV deal imminently. I don't think it would prevent them from getting one, but it tells me that nothing is on the horizon. So maybe we need to pump the brakes on a US TV deal, or they could just surprise us all and announce something within the next couple of weeks. I don't know. I don't really know what to make of their TV situation coming up in 2025. So, but it is news, but it's not big news. It's not really important. It's not really anything anybody needs to be talking about. But because it is out there and there's some articles written about it, I thought I'd go ahead and talk about it here. But the important news of the day is Masha Slamovich, our girl, has re-signed with TNA Wrestling, and she will be the Knockouts champion for the foreseeable future. She is not going anywhere, but I am going somewhere. I got to get back to work. I'm taking a break. I'm actually about to go get my haircut, and since I have to have a haircut for the military, I do it on company time. That's the smart play. Like, you don't understand that shit until you become a senior non-commissioned officer, until you're in charge of shit. It's like, oh, you know what? Like, I have to pay for this, right? And out here, it's expensive. It's $30 a haircut. I have to pay $30 twice a month to get my haircut. I'm doing that shit on company time. I'm gonna do it on my own time. So I take off mid-morning. I grab a snack, and then I go get a fucking haircut. So I'm about to go get a haircut, but I thought I'd take a little bit of a break and chat with y'all on Patreon. Thank you so much for being subscribers. Tell your friends about us. But yep, Masha Slamovich is in for the long haul. That's gonna do it for us this time on Brace for Impact. If some other news breaks during the week, I will be sure to whip out my phone and talk about it. But if you don't hear from me, you will definitely hear from me on Saturday morning for the next episode of Brace for Impact. And until next time, mahalo.